Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left, and this is total hypocrisy, an absolute scam. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the biggest fraud in Washington. All you far lefty socialist dweebs on Twitter have been buying into the progressive snake oil that AOC has been selling for far too long. Isn't it so absolutely hilarious how these anti-establishment, anti-billionaire, anti-corporate Democrat hacks seem to bend the knee every single time to the establishment? They have no backbone, folks, from Bernie Sanders, AOC, pretty much the whole squad. It's all the same thing. You might be paying attention that the new Congress has officially been put in place, and of course they voted for the new Speaker of the House. We've been covering this for a couple months now, and of course we've been saying the whole time it's going to be very close, and there's actually a decent chance that Nancy Pelosi loses her seat. Well, she didn't. She kept it, which of course was the more conservative bet, and while of course it's a loss for America, we do at least get a consolation prize, and that's exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left in the fact that the entire squad, every single member of the squad, voted for corporate crony establishment Nancy Pelosi, the same woman that they rail on over and over again. And the funny part is, Nancy didn't even need AOC's vote to get the majority. You need 214 votes, Nancy got 216. AOC could have voted present, she could have voted no, and held on to some level of integrity, but of course, she bent the knee, bent over, and voted for corporate Nancy. The absolute hypocrisy is as abundant as ever, and we gotta follow this story, and let me update you guys on, of course, the Twitter fallout. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. Now with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright, so we got this page right over here from CNN. It says a new Congress is sworn in, and of course they have to vote, and scroll right down. Pelosi secures votes needed to win re-election as Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi has secured the votes she needed to win the Speaker's gavel, more than 214 votes. The House needs to gavel closed, but she is on track to win. Two Democrats voted against Nancy Pelosi today during the Speaker vote. Representative Jared Golden of Maine voted for Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth, and Representative Connor Lamb of Pennsylvania voted for Representative Hakeem Jeffries. Representatives Mickey Sherrill, Abigail Spanberger, and Alyssa Slotkin voted present. Any present vote by a member is considered a non-vote and will reduce the number of total votes Pelosi will need to keep the gavel. All Republican members supported House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. The entire, pay attention to that, entire squad voted for Pelosi as well, including Representative-elects Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, and Representatives Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Absolute hypocrites, the whole lot of them. Anti-establishment Bernie Sanders rails against the establishment. He's going after the billionaire class, gets absolutely BTFO'd by the establishment, and then, of course, Bernie Sanders is once again asking for your financial support to elect Joe Biden for president. And Bernie Sanders starts doing what? Fundraising and campaigning for the establishment that absolutely BTFO'd him on multiple occasions. AOC, the exact same thing. She's just coming off losing a massive committee position in such a landslide vote that, of course, it was a repudiation, a referendum on far left policies and far left politics, socialist rhetoric within the Democratic sphere. And as AOC is getting beat left, right, and center by the establishment Democrats, instead of standing up for herself, but more importantly, standing up for the constituents that support her to go after the establishment, she stabs them all in the back and does what's politically expedient, and more importantly, plays the game of Washington to her own career gain. And here are the vote totals. Like I told you, AOC didn't even need to vote. She could have voted present and dropped the votes that Pelosi needed in the first place. Here's the final tally: 216 for Pelosi, 209 for McCarthy, 2 other, and 3 as present. So man, it was seriously close, a razor-thin margin. And just think about this, folks. Nancy Pelosi, after what, seemingly appearing inebriated, allegedly, on TV for months on end, making an absolute fool of herself and, of course, by extension, the Democrat Party on a near constant basis, after backstabbing the Americans that voted for her, after leading to the destruction of her own district, and of course, probably her own state, after failing to do her job and failing so many Americans, and even boasting her luxury and riches in their faces as they're suffering, Nancy wins again and is reelected in the speakership role. Folks, Washington is a racket. There's no choice. The choice is predetermined, and it's one establishment crony or the other. The reason Nancy Pelosi won is because if she didn't, then Kevin McCarthy would have taken that speakership role. And so, of course, Democrats are left with one decision: vote for Nancy Pelosi, who's the queen of the Democrat House, who has an absolute stranglehold on fundraising and funds, on donors. Nancy decides whether you win or lose your district race. Whether you get primaried or not, she controls the whole thing. If you're anti-Nancy and you're voting for Congress, you can sure as hell believe that you're going to get primaried and there's going to be someone running against you supported by Nancy to the tune of millions and billions of dollars. She has an absolute stranglehold on the Democratic Congress. And knowing this exact idea, in my opinion, should be more reason to stick to your guns and really stick it to Nancy and not vote for her. But instead, AOC and all of these woke squatty types failed to demonstrate one thing, that they're serious about what they mean and that they have a backbone. In fact, you want to see the lack of a backbone, a crony establishment type who's absolutely paid out by Nancy Pelosi. Look at Hakeem Jeffries speak on the House floor about Nancy Pelosi and her most recent win for the gavel.
COVID-19 pandemic with a comprehensive, compassionate, and continuing congressional response that at the end of the day will crush the virus and supercharge our economy. That is the Nancy Pelosi track record. Nancy Pelosi is a champion of the children, a defender of the disenfranchised, a voice for the voiceless, a fabulous facilitator, a notorious negotiator, and a legendary legislator for such a time as this.
If that's not a paid political shill kissing Nancy Pelosi's feet, then I don't know what is. That's the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. Could you imagine actually going on the House floor and saying Nancy Pelosi is a champion of the children, a defender of the disenfranchised, a voice for the voiceless, a fabulous facilitator, a notorious negotiator, and a legendary legislature for such a time for this? Could you imagine actually saying that? You could pay me $10 million. I wouldn't utter a single word of it. But now, really quick, let's see how Twitter is responding. Here's Glenn Greenwald. He says AOC has also now voted for Pelosi. Let's look at some of the responses. Jason Schultz says, of course she did. Keeping her job is more important to her than doing the right thing. Liz Viz writes, well, that's utterly disappointing. Christy writes, of course she did. It's all just smoke and mirrors. Mark McCullough writes, bend the knee AOC. This person already changed their Twitter handle to go after the squad, cancel the entire fraud squad. Now I'm fully expecting them to try to drag their base to the right throughout 2021. Lefties once again turning on themselves and trying to cancel each other. Force the Vote says, hashtag fraud squad needs to trend. Let's make it happen. And then that same person canceled the entire hashtag fraud squad, pushes that same hashtag trend. Michael Greenberg writes, this is so sad. No words. Tommy Tuberville writes, I really hope she extracted, quote, something from Pelosi in return. Yeah, right, with what leverage? But I know she probably didn't. Depressing. Mark Lean writes, I'm assuming sarcastically because she is willing to stick it to the status quo. Barbara writes, wow, disappointing. Ex-citizen Buck Tweet writes, what a sad bunch of stooges. William H writes, that's frustrating. And probably the greatest comment on the entire thing, Rick Barry writes, she got spanked by Grandma Nancy. And so there you go, folks. The people aren't exactly happy. The contrast could not be more clear. The fragment, the massive rift between the far-left Democrats and the establishment crony types that are bought out and paid by China and big tech. And I got a couple tweets here just to show you that exact difference. Here's a tweet from Ilhan Omar. Cori Bush releases this on Twitter saying squad up with a picture of the squad headed into the new session of Congress. Ilhan Omar writes unbought and unbossed, and then Jimmy Dore cleverly responds and retweets saying, ha, Nancy Pelosi is your boss. Absolutely wrecked. Imani Gandhi writes, people are already talking about primarying Cori Bush because she voted for Nancy Pelosi as speaker. It's her first day on the job. It is ridiculous. And so once again, Democrats fighting each other. And then of course, we've got the establishment types. Let's see the type of people who are getting behind Nancy. Some familiar faces to say the least. Jennifer, stop Trump and the GOP sedition. Rubin says, congrats at Speaker Pelosi. Now impeach Trump again. Jennifer Rubin is definitely a totally stable human being. Hey, here's another beloved political figure. Gavin Newsom, congratulations to the fierce fighter of the people. California is so proud to call you Speaker once again. And then the last person that she's got support from, Eric Swalwell, a historic speaker, always looking to the future. Congratulations at Speaker Pelosi. Hashtag for the people. And so you have the people, and then you have the likes of Eric Swalwell, Jennifer Rubin, and Gavin Newsom behind Nancy. If that doesn't show the contrast, then I don't know what does, folks. That's what I got for you on this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. Now I gotta get back to work because of course there's a whole lot of hypocrisy that must be exposed on a daily basis. So I'm gonna get to that. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.